Chapter 7. The therapy room was a small, narrow rectangle, as bare as a prison cell. Or barer. The window was closed and barred. A bright pink box of tissues. On the small table struck a discordantly cheerful note. Presumably it was placed there by Indira. I couldn't imagine Christian offering tissues to his patients. I sat on one of two battered, faded armchairs. The minutes passed. No sign of Alicia. Perhaps she wasn't coming? Perhaps she had refused to meet me. She would be perfectly within her rights. Impatient, anxious, nervous, I abandoned sitting and jumped up and walked to the window. I peered out between the bars. The courtyard was 3 stories below me. The size of a tennis court, it was surrounded by tall red brick walls that were too high to climb, though doubtless some had tried. Patients were herded outside for 30 minutes of fresh air every afternoon, whether they wanted it or not, and in this freezing weather I didn't blame them for resisting. Some stood alone, muttering to themselves, or they paced back and forth like restless zombies, going nowhere. Others huddled in groups, talking, smoking, arguing. Voices and shouts and strange excitable laughter floated up to me. I couldn't see Alicia at first. Then I located her. She was standing alone at the far end of the courtyard, by the wall, perfectly still, like a statue. Yuri walked across the courtyard toward her. He spoke to the nurse standing a few feet away. The nurse nodded. Yuri went up Alicia cautiously, slowly, as you might approach an unpredictable animal. I had asked him not to go into too much detail, merely to tell Alicia the new psychotherapist at the unit would like to meet her. I requested he phrase it as a request, not a demand. Alicia stood still as he spoke to her, but she neither nodded nor shook her head nor gave any indication of having heard him. After a brief pause, Yuri turned and walked off. Well, that's it, I thought. She won't come. Fuck it. I should have known. The whole thing has been a waste of time. Then, to my surprise, Alicia took a step forward. Faltering a little, she shuffled after Yuri across the courtyard until they disappeared from view under my window. So she was coming. I tried to contain my nerves and prepare myself. I tried to silence the negative voice in my head, my father's voice, telling me I wasn't up to the job, I was useless, a fraud. Shut up, I thought, shut up, shut up. A couple of minutes later, there was a knock at the door. Come in. The door opened. Alicia was standing with Yuri in the corridor. I looked at her, but she didn't look at me. Her gaze remained downcast. Yuri gave me a proud smile. She's here. Yes, I can see that. Hello, Alicia. She didn't respond. Won't you come in? Yuri leaned forward as if to nudge her, but he didn't actually touch her. Instead, he whispered, Go on, honey. Go in and take a seat. Alicia hesitated. She glanced at him, then made a decision. She walked into the room, slightly unsteadily. She sat on a chair, silent as a cat, her trembling hands in her lap. I was about to shut the door, but Yuri didn't leave. I lowered my voice. I can take it from here, thanks. Yuri looked worried. But she's on one-on-one. And the professor said, I'll take full responsibility. It's quite all right. I took my personal attack alarm out of my pocket. See, I have this, but I won't need it. I glanced at Alicia. She gave no indication she had even heard me. Yuri shrugged, obviously unhappy. I'll be on the other side of the door, just in case you need me. That's not necessary, but thanks. Yuri left, and I closed the door. I placed the alarm on the desk. I sat opposite Alicia. She didn't look up. I studied her for a moment. Her face was expressionless, blank, a medicated mask. I wondered what lay beneath. I'm glad you agreed to see me. I waited for a response. I knew there wouldn't be one. I have the advantage of knowing more about you than you do about me. Your reputation precedes you. Your reputation as a painter, I mean. I'm a fan of your work. No reaction. I shifted in my seat. Slightly. I asked Professor Diomedes if we might talk, and he kindly arranged this meeting. Thank you for agreeing to it. I hesitated, hoping for an acknowledgement of some kind. A blink, a nod, a frown. Nothing came. I tried to guess what she was thinking. Perhaps she was too drugged up to think anything at all. I thought of my old therapist, Ruth. What she would do. She used to say, we are made up of different parts, some good, some bad, and that a healthy mind can tolerate this ambivalence and juggle both good and bad at the same time. Mental illness is precisely about a lack of this kind of integration. We end up losing contact with the unacceptable parts of ourselves. If I was to help Alicia, we would have to locate the parts she had hidden from herself, beyond the fringes of consciousness, and connect the various dots in her mental landscape. Only then could we put into context the terrible events of that night. She killed her husband. It would be a slow, laborious process. Normally, when beginning with a patient, there is no sense of urgency, no predetermined therapeutic agenda. Normally, we start with many months of talking. In an ideal world, Alicia would tell me about herself, her life, her childhood. I would listen, slowly building up a picture until it was complete, enough for me to make accurate, helpful interpretations. In this case, there would be no talking, no listening. The information I needed would have to be gathered through nonverbal clues, such as my countertransference, the feelings Alicia engendered in me during the sessions, and whatever information I could gather from other sources. In other words, I had set into motion a plan to help Alicia without actually knowing how to execute it. Now I had to deliver, not just to prove myself to Diomedes, but, far more important, to do my duty to Alicia, to help her. Looking at her sitting opposite me, in a medicated haze, drool collecting around her mouth, fingers fluttering like dirty moths, I experienced a sudden and unexpected wrench of sadness. I felt desperately sorry for her, and those like her, for all of us, all the wounded and the lost. Of course, I said none of this to her. Instead, I did what Ruth would have done, and we simply sat in silence. Chapter 8. I opened Alicia's file on my desk. Diomedes had volunteered it. You must read my notes. They will help you. I had no desire to wade through his notes. I already knew what Diomedes thought. I needed to find out what I thought. But nonetheless, I accepted it. Politely. Thank you. That will be such a help. My office was small and sparsely furnished, tucked away at the back of the building, by the fire escape. I looked out the window. A little black bird was pecking at a patch of frozen grass on the ground outside, dispiritedly, and without much hope. I shivered. The room was freezing. The small radiator under the window was broken. Yuri said he'd try to get it fixed, but that my best bet was to talk to Stephanie or, failing that, bring it up in community. I felt a sudden pang of empathy with Elif and her battle to get the broken pool cue replaced. I looked through Alicia's file without much expectation. The majority of the information I needed was in the online database. Diomedes, however, like a lot of older staff members, preferred to write his reports by hand and, ignoring Stephanie's nagging requests to the contrary, continued to do so. Hence the dog-eared file in front of me. I flicked through Diomedes' notes, ignoring his somewhat old-fashioned psychoanalytic interpretations, and focused on the nurse's handover reports of Alicia's day-to-day behavior. I read through those reports carefully. I wanted facts, figures, details. I needed to know exactly what I was getting into, what I'd have to deal with, and if any surprises were in store. The file revealed little. When she was first admitted, Alicia slashed her wrists twice and self-harmed with whatever she could get her hands on. She was kept on 2-on-1 observation for the first 6 months, meaning 2 nurses watched over her at all times, which was eventually relaxed to 1-on-1. Alicia made no effort to interact with patients or staff, remaining withdrawn and isolated, and for the most part, the other patients had left her alone. If people don't reply when you speak to them and never initiate conversation, you soon forget they're there. Alicia had quickly melted into the background, becoming invisible. Only one incident stood out. It took place in the canteen a few weeks after Alicia's admission. Elif accused Alicia of taking her seat. What exactly had happened was unclear, but the confrontation escalated rapidly. Apparently, Alicia became violent. She smashed a plate and tried to slash Elif's throat with the jagged edge. Alicia had to be restrained, sedated, and placed in isolation. I wasn't sure why this incident drew my attention, but it didn't feel right to me. I decided to approach Elif and ask her about it. I tore off a sheet of paper from a pad and reached for my pen. An old habit formed at university. Something about putting pen to paper helps me organize my mind. I've always had difficulty formulating an opinion until I've written it down. I began scribbling ideas, notes, goals, devising a plan of attack. To help Alicia, I needed to understand her and her relationship with Gabriel. Did she love him? Hate him? What happened to make her kill him? Why had she refused to speak about the murder or anything else? No answers, not yet, just questions. I wrote down a word and underlined it. Alcestis. The self-portrait, it was important. Somehow, I knew that, and understanding why would be central to unlocking this mystery. This painting was Alicia's sole communication, her only testimony. It was saying something I had yet to comprehend. I made a note to revisit the gallery to look at the painting again. I wrote down another word, childhood. If I was to make sense of Gabriel's murder, I needed to understand not only the events of the night Alicia killed him, but also the events of the distant past. The seeds of what happened in those few minutes when she shot her husband were probably sown years earlier. Murderous rage, homicidal rage, is not born in the present. It originates in the land before memory, in the world of early childhood, with abuse and mistreatment, which builds up a charge over the years until it explodes, often at the wrong target. I needed to find out how her childhood had shaped her, and if Alicia couldn't or wouldn't tell me, I had to find someone who would. Someone who knew Alicia before the murder, who could help me understand her history, who she was, and how she ended up this way. In the file, Alicia's next of kin was listed as her aunt, Lydia Rose, who brought her up following the death of Alicia's mother in a car accident. Alicia had also been in the car crash, but survived. That trauma must have affected the little girl profoundly. I hoped Lydia would be able to tell me about it. The only other contact was Alicia's lawyer, Max Berenson. Max was Gabriel Berenson's brother. He was perfectly placed to observe their marriage intimately. Whether Max Berenson would confide in me was another matter. An unsolicited approach to Alicia's family by her psychotherapist was unorthodox, to say the least. I had a dim feeling Diomedes would not approve. Better not ask his permission, I decided, in case he refused. As I look back, this was my first professional transgression in dealing with Alicia, setting an unfortunate precedent for what followed. I should have stopped there, but even then it was too late to stop. In many ways my fate was already decided, like in a Greek tragedy. I reached for the phone. I called Max Berenson at his office, using the contact number listed in Alicia's file. It rang several times before it was answered. The offices of Elliot, Barrow, and Berenson, said a receptionist with a bad cold. Mr. Berenson, please. May I ask who is calling? My name is Theo Faber. I'm a psychotherapist at the Grove. I was wondering if it might be possible to have a word with Mr. Berenson about his sister-in-law. There was a slight pause before she responded. Oh, I see. Well, Mr. Berenson is out of the office for the rest of the week. He's in Edinburgh, visiting a client. If you leave your number, I'll have him call you on his return. I gave her my number and hung up. I dialed the next number in the file, Alicia's aunt, Lydia Rose. It was answered on the first ring. An elderly woman's voice sounded, breathless and rather annoyed. Yes? What is it? Is that Mrs. Rose? Who are you? I'm calling regarding your niece, Alicia Berenson. I'm a psychotherapist. Working at the... Fuck off. She hung up. I frowned to myself. Not a good start.